I'm Katie Wells, host of the Maximized Minimalist podcast. I escaped the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood, overwhelmed by clutter and buried under the mental load. Now I live in a home that feels calm, manageable, and made for real life. I have margin in my days, energy for who matters most, and time for slow mornings and silly dance parties in the kitchen with my family. With over 5 million listens, the show has helped women around the world turn their homes into their happy place. Around here, we simplify for more peace, more presence, and more joy. We choose grace over guilt and progress over perfection. And we believe your home should give back more than it takes. I'm here to help you do the same. Come along with me and my guests as we share the real stories, habits, and strategies that help you lighten the load from the inside out. Pull up a seat, friend, and let's do this together. Ready, set, simplify. Kerstin, welcome to the Maximized Minimalist.
I'm so happy to be here. It's great to see you again.
You as well. Before I hit record, I was just repeating the word sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. Man, that's a loaded word these days, isn't it?
It sure is. It's the most coveted and also the most elusive. I always say that I want to make a shirt that says sleep and Jesus, because you got those two things kind of nailed. You're like dialed in. You're doing okay.
So many of us are walking around maybe exhausted, not sleeping well, maybe running on caffeine, not that I know from personal experience. And I think we've come to think of it as just part of being a human being these days. But you shared in your story that part of your why behind this work and teaching what you teach, and we're going to talk about sleep and stress today, was that you witnessed and were there when your mom was battling stress-induced dementia in her late 50s. I'd love to start there if you don't mind. And can you share a little about what you learned about that experience and how that impacted you and how you see the topic of sleep, stress, etc.?
Yeah, I think many of us who teach or write books, it always is pain to purpose. And the Lord allowed me to go through a very stressful and sad and grief-filled, still to this day, my mom's been gone for 5 years, time watching my mom slowly slip away to dementia and Alzheimer's, because he knew I'd be able to help so many people as a result of what she went through. We had her go through some cognitive testing in her 50s. I was a brand new mom. And I had 2 babies under the age of 6 months. That's a whole nother book. And we were in a room at University of California, Irvine. And she was in the room already crying after she'd gone through some testing. And I walked in with my 2 babies. And the doctor put up an image of her brain. And he pointed to some of the dark spots. And he said, "Do you see those spots up there? Those can be partially attributed to stress." And it was a turning point for me I know we were just learning about dementia. This was now over 15 years ago. I was just learning about it. And I had never thought, it can be attributed to stress. I didn't understand that chronic disease and insulin resistance and diabetes and cancer and all of these big, scary, hard words could be at least partially attributed to something that I considered lifestyle, which is stress. And I remember looking at my babies and going, I can't let this happen to them. I cannot put them in a place where they are losing the most important person in their life during one of the most important times of their life, which is what I was going through with my mom. She'd already missed the birth of my babies and me going through infertility and adoption because her cognitive functioning had already kind of started to decline. And she was 59 years old and she fought not very gracefully. It was a hard time for about 11 years before she passed, she started in mild cognitive impairment, slipping into dementia and Alzheimer's. And looking back, my mom was a self-professed stress case. She was always stressed out. She was a single mom. She battled cancer a couple of times. She battled depression. She didn't have the tools that we have now, though. I don't blame any of that on her. She didn't know. I mean, we went through the 80s where it was diet fads and fake foods to stay skinny. And antidepressants everybody had them. And now we have the tools. Now we know better. Now we know how to help us in this day and age get rid of holding stress as a badge of honor, get rid of the stress that is almost optional in our lives, and live a healthier life so that doesn't have to happen to everybody else.
You mentioned something too, like there are so many things at play that are out of our control. Maybe we only have so much capacity. We only have so much time. I mean, whatever responsibilities we have, we can't just, declutter those responsibilities, quit our jobs and our responsibility and be like, yeah, I'm just going to sleep and, just nurture myself in the way that I would like to. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back and tell your mom, here's a really good starting point. Where would you start with her, whether it was pre or post diagnosis? If she were ready to get support with managing her stress and her sleep better, what would you tell her?
I would actually challenge something that you just said. And this is what I do with people that I work with in health coaching and workshops and when I speak. And I would do the same thing with her. We think that all of these responsibilities that we have, that we do have to shoulder them. Like I said, my mom was a single mom. She ran a school for kids with special needs. She had a high profile job. But nothing is important as your relationship with the Lord and your family and your health. Because none of the things that you do, your work, your job, your home, any of those things are going to mean anything if you find yourself at 59 years old losing your cognition. Mm-hmm. So while we say, oh, I can't just quit my job, I can't just move to a place that more aligns with my bio-individuality, which is a true thing. Some people cannot live in the Northeast. They are influenced by light and sun and magnesium. Some people cannot work in an overnight job. We know that's a type 2 carcinogenic if you are working overnights. And if you're a nurse or you're a doctor, God bless you because you're a lifesaver. But if it's impacting your health to a point where you're not going to be able to do that in your 60s, you do need to make some hard decisions. And I think that with my mom, the first place that we would have to start is her believing that she was in control of everything. Her insisting that she had to keep the wheels on the bus. Well, I have to provide for my daughter. I have to be able to make this money. I don't know what's going to happen in 6 months or a year. Well, I have to plan everything. Controlling, as opposed to surrendering it to the Lord and being able to say, you will provide. I don't know how, but this is yours and I surrender it to you. And sometimes that means hard decisions. I had to do it. I had to quit my high profile corporate job as the primary breadwinner for a family of 5. And I did it 2 days before my husband checked himself into rehab. So there was no safety net except for the Lord. And I know that I knew that I had to do it because he was guiding, and I knew that I had to put the things in place that were going to keep me healthy long term. So that's the first place I would start, is with the mindset shift. Yeah. From there are 5 components to your wellness: how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, relationships, and spirituality. And just like you said, always start with.
You mentioned the badge of honor as far as stress, busy. And I think part of that ties into with this urge to control, especially when things feel out of control. I know we talked about that when I was on your show related to shopping, right? Sometimes when the world feels out of control, or even just our family or like we're like, oh, let's reach for something as a distraction. What can I control? I can control getting that quick dopamine hit from purchasing. Yeah. So related to that to me, especially when I travel, I see this more obviously, is a very cultural thing. And it can even be different, like city to city, even in places I've traveled, let alone countries. If we don't align with that mentality, and I think a lot of people who listen to this show we don't believe that more is better. We're learning to lean out, simplify our lives, physical clutter, mental clutter, digital clutter, mindset clutter, all these things. Yet we still find ourselves stuck in that busy hamster wheel. Where do we go next? What do we do?
I have a lot of things that I put in place. I do something called a 15-minute rule, where you put 15 minutes after every single appointment during your day. And that's not drive time or scroll social media or get ready for my next meeting. It's 15 minutes of phones down, getting sunlight, deep breathing, until it can become a lifestyle in which you're not hurrying. I like to put that in place. But I think that most people, especially probably the women specifically who are listening to this podcast and are a lot like us, you have to have almost like a detox or a reset, like we do when it comes to the nutritional part of things. When people tell me they plateau, I'm like, okay, let's do a 2-week detox. Let's do a reset. Let's do a fasting program for a little while and get you back in line. And I think for us, the best thing that you can do, and this might sound impossible to people, but is to get out of the country and surf. So allowing yourself, for us, my family, we did it for 4 months. It could be 2 weeks. Getting out of the United States to a place where poverty is king and serving in a place like that, it will completely reset your hurry button, completely reset your idea of stress and what we really need. Mm-hmm. And it will give you a new perspective and a way to come back to the United States and approach things not with this, I have to be productive and I'm only as good as the last thing that I did mentality. When we went and served as missionaries for 4 months in Mexico, we went to serve, I went to show my children a different way of life. But what we really learned was an antidote to stress because they were never in a hurry and they always at least had 1 day of Sabbath. Everybody took a 1-day Sabbath. It's kind of unheard of here in the United States. Yes. People don't put a phone down for a full day. Nobody does it. And your brain needs it to recover your nervous system.
Yeah. That reminds me of sleep too, in the sense of this recovery process. For the last few months, I've just been led to really focus in specifically for me on brain health, which has opened the door for me to realize how much of the recent and current health issues I've been experiencing are from a lack of investing time and energy into nurturing my brain. This is just a very simple process that happens during sleep, right? It helps cleanse your brain physically. There is a cleansing process that happens. I was learning about that the other day on some 3-hour podcast, which is so fascinating. But I'm like, the amount of lack of information and knowledge we have about how our bodies work, when you actually start diving into learning about some of this from neuroscientists or lab researchers or professors who study this for a living, it is, first of all, I'm always so humbled by how we were designed, right? And also how little I need to do to keep my body functioning. But also it makes me realize there are absolutely simple things we can all do, I think, to optimize based on our capacity and all these things to improve our stress levels, take care of our brains. And, speaking to the 5 kind of pillars of health you talked about, the movement, the sleep, managing the stress and all these things, I think is so, so critical. So I love that point.
So first of all, I love that you listened to the 3-hour podcast on the glymphatic system and how you have to sleep. You have to get deep in REM. That's where our body and our brain are healing. And what we tend to do is push through. And there's a season for everything because my whole focus is stress. I'm a stress coach. And for a very long time, I sold things on television and the Lord said, listen, I need you to take this to be able to go take those 3-hour podcasts and turn it into something that, people who aren't scientists and researchers can understand.
Like me.
So I tend to do that a lot, right? Because I love that. I love giving aha moments to people. And what we tend to do is push through as much as we can, especially in a season like you're in right now, where you have a book that's out and you're trying to get everything across. But sometimes pushing through for a season builds resilience. Mm-hmm. It's a good stress, right? It's the kind where a doctor who's about ready to discover the solution to cancer, of course, we want that person to keep going. That person is stretching their brain, but it has to be matched with rest. Any stress you have in a season of extreme push has to be matched with rest. And I would venture to believe, especially in the season that you're in right now, where you've gone through months of a push, you have to match it with rest. And that's why your body's giving you signals. And that's why the Holy Spirit is putting these things in front of you saying, okay, Katie, now it's time for you to rest. And we have to do that. So in order to get enough of that deep and that REM that you get in sleep. And I tell people, if you wear a wearable, you want to get about 35% the total put together of your deep and your REM. You want to be in that. I consistently have a hard time getting deep sleep, but I'm pretty good with REM. And this is sometimes where supplements come in, especially if you're a woman who is over the age of 40. Sometimes you need to supplement a little bit more in perimenopause and menopause and beyond. I like things like magnesium, ashwagandha if you're going under a lot of stress and grief. But you want to get those numbers to about 35% for the two of them together so that you are getting enough time for your body and your brain to heal. And if you're not doing that, we have to first look at what your pre-bed ritual is before. And actually, it starts before that. It starts first thing in the morning, getting sun before you look at your phone.
Yes.
Sun before screens is one of my favorite things to tell people to do. When you roll out of bed, other than getting down on your knees and saying thank you, Jesus, starting your day with gratitude, you need to get outside, even if it's overcast, before you look at your phone. I tell people to keep their phone on grayscale until they've been outside and receive some sun before screens, because that jumpstarts your circadian rhythms. And about 12 to 14 hours later, you'll start to get tired. Then you work in this 3-2-1 principle that I use, which is 3 hours before bedtime, you stop eating, because you can't make melatonin while you're also going through the digestion process. So you want your melatonin to start kicking in. So 3 hours before bed, you stop eating. 2 hours before bedtime, stop too much of the drinking. So we make sure that you don't have to get up in the middle of the night because you're hyperloading your liquids. And you also stop making major decisions. And I would assume just that's kind of the piece where you might keep working, or you might keep answering emails, or working on the next thing, or thinking, if I can just get this one piece done. But really, the biggest benefit to your creativity is going to be 2 hours before you for bed. You turn all of that off, and you just start to let your brain come down and go into the most important thing that you can do for your day, which is sleep. And then 1 hour before bedtime, that's when all the lights go low. So you don't want any more blue light. I have people replace the lights in their main living area or by their bed with red lights. So it mimics that sun going down. Your body starts to get tired. Wear blue light blocking glasses. Those are fantastic. They'll help you get tired as well. So it's a pre-bed ritual before it's anything else to help you get that rest.
I love too that, I guess the counterintuitiveness that it starts in the morning. I just had Dr. John LaPuma on my podcast a few months back, and he talked about, he's got a new book out, which is really good. And one of his big things he's also, discussing is the benefits of morning sunlight.
Yeah.
And I shared how, I think it was last winter, I got how many looks? 10,000, 50,000. I don't know which one it was, or whatever they suggest for the winter, because it's just so dark. And I put it on my kitchen table. I drank my morning coffee, made such a big difference. And now that we're, in summer, I'm just outside, and I often try to walk at the same time for just, 5 to 10 minutes. Exact same tips you shared. And it does help me sleep. And you wouldn't think that. I used to scramble before bed and be like, it's like stressful. I need to sleep good. And then that's not helping either.
No, it's not helping at all. And I do the same thing. So I have a little journal next to my bed, and I encourage people to do this. And it's like I'm having which we should always do, having a conversation with God. And I'm literally going, okay, so I'm worried about, Georgia's got this happening at school, and I'm worried about this. Grace, these are my children. Grace has this going on. I know I have this thing tomorrow, and I don't really want to do it. In a week from now, I know I have this, and I'm already dreading it. And I'm worried that I said the wrong thing to this person. And I'm literally telling God, here's all the things that I'm worried about, all the things that I have to do tomorrow. And God, I'm giving them to you because I need you to hold them tonight. And just let me sleep, and I'll pick it back up in the morning. But I'm just going to give it to you right now. And you're creating a new neural pathway when you do that. It's the same situation where sometimes people look at their beds and they've had such a bad relationship with sleep. They get up in the middle of the night all the time. They toss and turn. Their brains have learned that, I see the bed. That's the place where we stay up all night and we ruminate and we think about the things that we did 20 years ago and how we can fix them. And you have to create a new neural pathway in that space. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to literally just brain dump everything that's going on in your brain before bed and get rid of it until the next day so you can sleep.
If you wake up in the middle of the night, or one of your clients is like, I keep waking up in the middle of the night and my to-do list is running through my head and it's like panic setting in, would you suggest the same format? Like just do a brain dump to try to just get it out? Or what's the protocol if it's 2 a.m.?
Yeah, for sure. So if that 2 to 3 a.m. wake up thing is very hormonal.
Okay.
So first thing I'm doing with clients is blood testing, gut testing, genetic testing, trying to kind of see where she or he, it doesn't happen as much to men, right? But to see where they are, I'm having them do the 3-2-1, because what's happening is every cycle of sleep is about 90 minutes. You go through light, you go through deep, you go through your REM, and then you do come to the surface. You have an ability to wake up. So something is waking that person up at the end of a 90-minute cycle. We don't want that to happen. We want to keep that person down. If you do wake up, do not look at anything blue. No blue lights, no light. If you have to have a light on again, it's a red light, because as soon as you trigger that light in your retina, your body thinks that the sun has come up and then you stay up and you're not getting back into those cycles of sleep. So red light, no light at all. Journaling's great. Actually, I like breath work. So if you're up in the middle of the night at 2:00, doing some breathing, 4 inhale, 4 hold, 6 exhale is great. I like apps like Insight Timer that can give you, they're called binaural beats or yoga nidra. Which really help with getting you back to sleep. Listening to that works. If you're in your bed though, tossing and turning for more than 10, 15 minutes, again, we need to break that. You need to get up, walk around a little bit, grab a drink of water if you want to. Again, not looking at a television or a phone, no blue light, but break that cycle before you get back in.
So someone listening, and this was me for years, if I'm waking up regularly or fairly consistently in that window, and even though the first thing that might enter my mind is a to-do list or something stressful happening in my life, it's not necessarily the stress waking me up. It's something like there's something at the root of it, like something hormonal, physiological.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that, because it doesn't really happen to me. But if it does on a rare occasion, I have the science and the knowledge to understand, okay, Kerstin, you're not really worried about that client or that thing or that to-do list, even though at that time it feels like you're being chased by a bear. Oh my goodness, I have to take care of this right now. It is absolutely 100% hormonal and chemical what's going on in your body. So even just being aware of that, you can talk yourself down out of it a little bit, as opposed to taking it as truth, because it's not truth.
Yeah. I'd love to hear how faith shapes the way you think about stress and rest.
Wow, I love that question. Well, it's the name of my podcast, StRest. People, if you ask Alexa, she says that it's Saint Rest because it's STREST.
She doesn't
I'm not
know.
even
We have to teach her.
It actually works. But it's from stress to rest. Like I said, there are 5 main components of your wellness: how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, and relationships and spirituality. And every single one of them, I look out through the lens of how it impacts stress in your body. And actually, a lot of people ask me, what's the number one stress in life? And they're surprised when I think most of the time it's food, because we are eating such fake food, and anything that enters your body that is fake puts a stress on your body and leads to inflammation, and that leads to stress as well. So that's just a side note. But all 5 of these categories are extremely important. Your relationship with the Lord and your spirituality being key to all of it, because I can work with a woman for a year on weight loss or chronic conditions or inflammation or whatever it might be. And until we do the soul work, you can't do the body work. You have to be able to, just like we talked about in the very beginning of this, release that control and surrender and understand that you are not in charge. So working with the Holy Spirit, working with the Lord first and giving it to Him and surrendering it to Him. I do a program called Fast to Faith with a lot of my clients, which teaches a very safe way of fasting, but it's all faith-based. So I don't know how people can get through any major thing in their life without the Lord. Grief, trauma, job loss. You can't white knuckle your way through a diet, and you can't white knuckle your way through life. You have to have that reliance on a higher power. And for me and for what I teach and for us, that is the Lord. So it is necessary. Does it mean you're not going to have stress? No. In fact, when you walk with God, when you surrender your life to Him, oftentimes there's going to be more stress in your life because you're going to be under attack, because Satan does not want you out there spreading the word of Jesus. But you have the ultimate practitioner in the Lord who can help you get through that. It's this peace, just like it says in the Bible, that surpasses all understanding. Mm-hmm. Even when everything seems completely out of whack, when you can't sleep, when your job's not going well, your relationships aren't going well, you can still feel His peace, His presence, and His participation, as long as you're fully surrendering it all to Him.
Easier said than done.
Oh, so it's a practice. I always tell people, you don't get to 60 and you're like, oh, I did it. I nailed it, did it all. You have to give yourself grace. I mean, that's first and foremost. Sure, I teach people how to reduce stress in their life, but I also have a lot of stress in my life, and I have to continue to check myself and give yourself grace, because you can do a lot of judging yourself and feeling shame for doing the wrong thing. And that's not what God's doing. He's just saying over and over again, well done, good and faithful servant. It's okay. Come back to me. You made a mistake. It's okay. Tomorrow's another day. It's also why I say, change your morning, change your life. Because every single morning is a chance to start over.
Yeah.
Give your life and your body to God first thing in the morning so you can set the day right.
I know, I'll speak for myself. I would always kick off any change. I'd be like, I'll wait till January 1st. I'll wait till the kids are back in school. But you're right. It's like we can do that at any time in the morning, when we wake up, like you said, thank goodness, I live another day. And to start that day and know that I can change something today. I can change how I speak to myself. I can change who I lean on. I can change what I read and the inputs I'm giving my body and my soul and my brain, and how all that just integrates into all these different 5 components you're talking about. And I can absolutely see how that relates to, stress and rest and all these things.
Yeah. And taking it back to the morning, like you said, when you said, I feel a difference and by the way, bravo. One of the things that I always encourage people to do is to bring together that movement, being outside, bringing those 2 things together. So I say, get 10 minutes of just light movement first thing in the morning, detoxify the body, get the heart going. Doesn't have to be hard. I'm usually still in my pajamas. I just throw on a jog bra and walk outside. But you're getting a mix of that first light, clean air is usually cleaner outside than it is inside. Plus you're getting that movement, but it's also a good time to incorporate kind of some prayer and some quiet time with the Lord. You can do it all in 10 minutes first thing in the morning. Yeah. And just doing that, just putting those 3 things together, and we're called to do it in the Bible. It's the first fruits. We're called to tithe the first 10% of our income, but that's also our time. And if we were giving the Lord the first 10% of every single day, we would be spending 2 hours and 40 minutes with him. And I'm saying, start with 10 and see how it changes your life. See how when you trust him with those first 10 minutes of your day, it blesses the rest of your day and in turn, your life.
And I think it's for me, it's always a reminder anytime I lose that habit of my time talking to God. And I tend to do that often in nature versus at a table, but sometimes it's while I'm reading as well, reading the Bible. I always find it always makes me cry, like peace, right? And for me, that feels like the opposite of stress. And yes, like to know that he's with me. He's with me through this. And I can only imagine when you shared, like, listen, I quit my job and my husband's entering rehab and we have 2 small children. When you're like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm trusting that I know that I'm not in this alone. That had to have been still a little bit scary, but also comforting to know, like, he's got you. He's got you.
You said it 100% when you got emotional and said it's that peace. There was a time in my life when we had just had our third child. My career was like skyrocketing. Everything was great on the outside, but I felt discontent. And the only time that I felt that peace was when I was in worship, like at church or, Tuesday morning or praying. And I was like, I should just be a nun because nuns get to talk to God all the time. And that wasn't going to happen. And that's when I really started developing this morning time, because you can, no matter what's happening in your life, no matter how out of control it seems, if you commit to that morning practice of being with him, even for a little amount of time, he will come. You will feel his peace. You will feel his participation and his presence in your life. And you will learn by spending that time and repetition and intention how to re-access that throughout the day when the stress comes up, when you start to feel out of control again. It's a practice. It's just like exercising. It's just like cleaning up the way that you eat. These are things that we have to have become a habit in our lives so you can continue to feel it.
That's right. And I think you mentioned this earlier too, when I was like, oh yeah, all of a sudden, it seemed like all of a sudden I have these resources available to me, or that I'm all of a sudden interested in, which was brain health. And it really, for me, I think was a missing gap in my own health, like that was placed there because of that intentional time. And sometimes he places resources like podcasts or people or information in front of us but it has to, like, we have to spend time. We have to be there to listen. We have to be willing to listen, because I could have said, well, I don't want to listen to a 3-hour podcast, and I didn't have to, but it took me 2 weeks. Can I say that? Can I be honest?
Absolutely.
But it was just so eye-opening. And I think relaying that back to him and saying, thank you. Thank you for putting this information, and thank you for helping me get what I need in order to live a healthier life so that I can better serve my family and better serve you. And I think it's got to come like that full circleness, like not only receiving what we need, but giving it right back.
That what you're speaking of, people say, I don't hear from the Lord. I don't know. He's not talking to me. I don't feel that peace. He's always communicating with you. The Holy Spirit is always in your life and placing these things in your life. What's probably happening is you're not being still enough to be able to recognize it. You're rushed. That's why I do the 15-minute rule with people. You're rushing through everything. You're hurrying. You're in constant go, go, go. And God's not going to shout past your busyness. So you have to be intentional with taking these breaks. First thing in the morning, inviting him in so that you can fine tune your ability to hear him and to recognize him. And it might not be, he's not going to necessarily talk out loud like this. It could be through a podcast that comes across your feed. It could be through somebody that you meet. It could be something that you drive by and you see, and the Holy Spirit's like, take a look at that. And you recognize it because you are being intentional with spending time with the Lord first thing in the morning so you can recognize his voice and being silent. I tell people to start with 3 to 8 minutes of just silence and listening and asking God, what do you want me to know and what do you want me to do? And then being open to it through the day, but also not rushing through your day so that you miss these times when he's trying to talk to you.
Yeah. And even just the quote unquote small moments that make up our days. Like there's so many moments. I was always, and again, part of it was I was living in survival mode, even though I didn't need to be, because it was so stuck in my nervous system. I was so stuck in go, go, go. And then one day I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I'm stressed just because it's become automatic. It's become my default. Like you spoke to the neuroplasticity and rewiring our brain. I literally had to force myself to understand, Katie, there's always going to be stress, but you don't have to like Andrew would be like, Katie, like constantly. And it didn't matter if something was resolved or not. I would always find something else to put my intention and focus on that was stressful. And that really impacted how I moved throughout my day. I was very rigid, very, very rigid. The control piece was a big part of it. The lack of extending an arm to the Holy Spirit to help me through things. I have grit. I'm smart. I can do this on my own. I don't need anyone else, And it really took a few years, I think, to snap out of that. And it sounds like, that's one of the programs you have that helps women do that, because so many of us, like, it's in our bodies, like we're wired that way because of maybe circumstances or how we were raised or culture,
all of those things.
Yeah.
If I was working with you and we had hours together, we would definitely go back to how you were raised and what has happened in your life. And to take it full circle moment back to my mom, that's how she always was. I've got to hold it together. It's all on me. And then what modern medicine tells us, oh, you're having heart palpitations. Oh, you're constantly stressed and sad. Let me give you a Band-Aid pill for that and a Band-Aid pill for that. And then that throws things off in your body even further. And that causes more problems. And then another pill to fix that. And then another Band-Aid to fix that. And and before you know it, your nervous system shot, plus every other system within your body. And again, we didn't know better 20, 30, 40 years ago, but God bless the fact that now we have all these great podcasts and we have all these great scientists and functional medicine and integrative doctors out there and faith-based practitioners who are able to show us that, listen, we do not need to be in fight or flight all the time, and we don't need to take a pill to take care of it.
Yeah, getting to the root of it. Our background is, my husband's a chiropractor, was a chiropractor by trade. So very much impacted how I, approach clutter, as you know. And I think that, getting to the root of it, is so important. And yes, medicine has its place, but I don't necessarily think it's where we go first in a lot of cases. And I think we're learning that as I think a lot of us are really seeking information and support in after we're like I've been kind of on the struggle train with our health. Like something has to give. What do I need to do in order to do that hard reset? Maybe it's a detox. Maybe it's fasting. And I love too the spiritual side of fasting, which I'll be honest, I haven't done too much of. I've really looked at it from like a autophagy, physiological, biological, like, oh, this is just good for me. And I've had good experiences with it in all these different aspects.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite tools. Right up there with praying, but it's a piece of it, right? And I was the same as you. So I was introduced to fasting originally I have one copy of APOE4, which is a genetic marker for late onset Alzheimer's. And my mom got it early, but I have one copy for late. Does not mean that I'm going to get Alzheimer's, but it does mean that there's certain things that I should do for my body to help not turn that gene on. And one of the things that's most impactful for us, if you carry one of those, or for any human being really, is fasting. So I started fasting, and it was a great way not only to have a clearer mind, to help my brain health and cognition, also keep my weight where I wanted it to be, all of these things. But then about a year and a half ago, I was introduced to a program called Fast to Faith that brings the two together. It was life-changing because I was always a very strong faith-based woman. And I always prayed while I was fasting, but when you bring the two together, the science and the biblical truth piece, it is a complete game changer because fasting is throughout the Bible. It really is a great tool in the Bible, not only for your health, but also to get closer to the Lord.
Yeah, so many wins there. And I think sometimes for me, I'll hear these things because I really very much spend a lot of my time learning and integrating these wellness aspects. I think, and then I'm realizing, oh, this is in the Bible. This is not a new, I think some of us can sometimes be like, oh, well, it's really trendy, like that's just a trend. It's a fad. But I'm like, well, actually, like it's maybe talked about more now, but it's part of the foundation. And it's always kind of funny when I'm like, I do it because I hear more about it, but I'm like, yeah, it's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah. There's this book, you would love it since you love all this stuff, called None of These Diseases. It's a really old book, and it basically walks you through the Bible, every single place, all these like, okay, how do we cure cancer? How do we do that? Like it's all in the Bible. How do we take care of our crops? How do we fast? It's amazing. There is biblical truth for if we just followed the Bible, we would honestly be super, super healthy. I mean, even, there's people who have the controversy over like the red tent aspect and why did they send women away when they had their periods? Well, it was honestly to protect them. It was to keep them healthy. I mean, it's all in the Bible if we just paid attention.
I'm going to pay attention more.
Yeah.
You might have already answered this, but I wanted to ask you this before we go. And that is, I mean, you covered so much ground today, and I have so much written down for notes and different things, I can integrate. For the woman listening who's like, oh, all these sound amazing. I want to do the morning light. I want to do the gratitude. I want to do the prayer. I want to do the movement. And then if they're anything like me, the next week, nothing's changed. Like, what is the tipping point, or what is the one thing that maybe tends to set up a lot of women for success when it comes to this topic?
It is a much longer process. I wish that there was a magic pill, and there isn't. So I want to give you one thing that I think that literally you could do right now, as long as you're not driving, to start the process in your brain, like specifically working on your brain health. And that is, as soon as the sun starts to go down, put your phone on grayscale. Go into accessibility, display and text size. And it's hard to find, you guys. You're going to have to Google it, look it up, because phones do not want you to have your phone on grayscale.
That's right.
Because it makes your phones less attractive. And one of the biggest, in fact, many doctors will say, many scientists will say, the biggest threat to our health right now is circadian dysregulation, is the fact that our bodies don't know the difference between day and night. And we have forced unnatural light all the time. And the biggest culprit of that is our devices. So if you can just get rid of the blue light and all the other stuff by turning your phone on grayscale at night and not turning it off of grayscale until you've done the Katie walk, gotten outside, gotten your first sun in your eyes, and kickstart your circadian rhythm. Then if you need to put your phone off of grayscale because it's going to be frustrating to you, because you're not good, it's going to be like, oh, I can't see anything. And that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you've done one good thing for yourself that day. And then if you want to like take it a step further, I want everybody to have one Sabbath day, like one full day off. If you need to baby step your way into that, pick one day of the week that you're going to have your phone on grayscale all day long. All day long. You're not going to take it off. And see how much less time you spend on your phone so you can do the breathing and the moving and the hydrating and all the other things that we talk about.
That's incredible. Grayscale, I need to go back to grayscale, honestly. I tend to switch back. I don't know why. Maybe I'm like, well, I have a hold on this, but it's not a willpower issue. It's how we're wired, right?
It is. It's scientific, right?
Maybe you've heard of this product. And what I particularly love about this product is it's not a subscription like everything else in the world these days. I'm like, why is like my stove a subscription? It's like everything. I'm like, I can't handle one more subscription, but it's called Brick. And it's just a magnet, and you can tie multiple phones to it, and you can set up like it bricks your phone. So you can block Instagram, you can block certain websites, you can set it to certain times of day, and it's super easy to use. And if you want to log into Instagram during, like, my window every night is 4 to 7 right now, where I can't access my messages because I wanted to just make it everything. I can get phone calls.
Yeah.
But if you want to hop on or use that, you have to physically go up to it's like a magnet, lives on my fridge, and like tap your phone. And one of my favorite things it says when you try to do that, it says, go back to living. And I'm like, dang, if that doesn't get you in the gut. But most people, just because of the simple friction it causes, right? It doesn't make it convenient to just scroll. You can't just pick it up and scroll. And it's been so profound. As a side note.
I have heard of it, and I'm wondering if it was you on my podcast, but I have heard of it, and I don't know why I don't have it, because everybody do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And me, I was getting caught in like the scrolling at night. And while I didn't necessarily, and I'm sure it physiologically does impact my sleep, even though I feel like, I don't know, I couldn't tell. Yeah. Like you said, because of how we're wired, I was starting to scroll, so even if it's just one or two websites, we're like, I just block it. It's like the best thing ever.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, the latest research is 3.5 hours is the average for American adults that are scrolling before bedtime. That's not a day. That's just before bedtime,
3.5 hours just before bed?
I always go back and look, and I was like, how is that possible? And I believe that they're bringing into the research, they're bringing like not just scrolling social media, but like on their phones or devices. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's ridiculous. Who has that time?
It's a lot.
It's amazing what we do.
It is. And it's amazing when you look at the data on your phone too, because it adds up real fast, sneaks up on you. Kerstin, this has been such a wealth of information. We end every episode asking our guests 2 questions. The first one is, if you could magically declutter one thing from your life forever, what would it be?
I could magically declutter. Is emotional declutter an answer? Yeah. Because I'm super sensitive and emotional and cry at the drop of a hat. And I know that feelings are liars. Like, that's something that I train people on too. You are not owned by your feelings. You have choices, but sometimes they are super overwhelming. I went to go see a movie last night that was so good, but I was so emotionally charged after that and sad it was a happy ending, but I was still sad. So I would say emotional declutter.
I hear that. And what is one thing in your life or your home that you would never let go of?
I mean, my family, is that like, obviously, like, if my 3 children could never leave the house, even though I'm in the throes of 16-year-old girl kind of HELL, I would never, ever let go.
Aw, I love it. It's what matters most, right?
It is 100%.
Faith and family. Kerstin, thanks for coming on the show. And where can my listeners connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kerstin Lindquist. It's KERSTIN LINDQUIST everywhere. my website's a great place to start. Sign up for my newsletter. I send out a lot of great stuff every single week. And I have a podcast called StRest. It looks like St. Rest, I guess. STREST. We put out health, science, and biblical truth twice a week, free. We're very, very active on YouTube and Instagram. Those would be the two biggest places. So I would love for you to come be a part of the community.
I got to join your newsletter. I'm excited to get that. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.